Hey beautiful people, my name's Kristen. Thank you for taking time, stopping by my book channel. I have a day off finally. I'm going to film a booktube tag because I am behind, and I tried to pick a few books that I haven't necessarily spoken about that I just really would have like recommendations for. So hopefully you'll find something interesting in the video. I was kindly tagged by Nikki at Red Dot Reads. I will leave her video with her suggestions below, as well as the creators of the original tag, Gemma at Gemma Books, and Emily at Novel Opinions, and Danny at Danny's Book World, and leave that below for you. So not a long tag, but could be interesting. Let's see what we got. Katherine of Aragon, a book that was your first true love. So these first couple answers are probably ones that I will use in tags because they just are truthful, genuine answers. My first love was The Secret Garden. This is the book that I remember falling in love with reading about and just really connecting with the story about, secrets, gardens, and the compassion and kind of friendship that develops between a girl who's kind of difficult and rebellious and likes to get into passages and all that kind of stuff. And I kind of resonate with that character a little, and then finds the little boy who is struggling with some special needs physically and just trying to have that kind of relationship form. And I just thought it was a beautiful story that really got to me and really loved my reading. And I remember even the smell of that book. I wish I had held on to my original copy. Number 2, Anne Boleyn, a book with a manipulative character. So the first thing I thought of is one of my all-time favorite classics, favorite book on the Penguin cloth bound, 1984. I mean, this is where the entire world, or at least the authoritative government, is manipulating everything. They like listening to you. There's like thought police. There can be no greater manipulation than that. And that's what makes it so creepy. This is why I don't need horror novels in my life, because even though this is kind of in a very real way a horror novel, it's realistic in the sense that so many things just resonate with what's happening in the world today. There's so many times, I'll like look and go, has anybody read 1984? Siri, listening to us? Yep, just saying. Number 3, Jane Seymour, a book that delivered what you wanted. So I had heard some good booktube reviews for the Alice Network, and this was a new to me author at the time. I had never read any Kate Quinn before. This is a story about women who were spies in World War II, and so I knew that it was going to be adventure, kind of based on some truth, historical fiction. Really wanted to learn something as well as kind of have that suspense drama aspect of it, and it totally delivered on that. I have several other Kate Quinns on my TBR stack as well as my wish list. I haven't read anything else by her, but this was so outstanding. It's a fun author that I have discovered, and she gets consistent good reviews. So I think I can confidently recommend that she is an author to pick up one of her books. As well as this leads into the next question, Anne of Cleves, a book that wasn't what you expected. So I'm going to kind of tattle on myself that I incorrectly thought when I was at a used bookstore, I saw this book, The Address by Fiona Davis. And for whatever reason, in my head, I thought that this was on my classics TBR. And so I picked it up thinking that I was going to be able to count it as a classic, but shame on me, this is not, the author is not old enough to be writing classics for us. But I do think maybe or eventually, I should say, her books could turn into classics. I have now become another author love with Fiona Davis. I have read a couple other of her books as well as have several on my wish list. This one is about a particular historical building. It's set in the past and then fast forward into the future and deals with a lot of social norms, as well as particularly what I loved about it was wrestling with prison and how people were treated in prisons and how mental illness was dealt with in criminals. And it's not a main plot line of it, but the way it was woven into the plot of this, plus I love dual timelines, plus I love historical fiction. So if those are the kind of things that are your jam, I can totally recommend this, as well as several other of her books. 5. Katherine Howard, a book that irritated you. I mean, there's several books that irritate me. Those are, any DNF book is pretty much one that irritated me in some way. So I'll just go with the most recent one, To the Birdhouse. This one had a complete control freak, narcissistic character that was pretty much emotionally and verbally cruel, but you were supposed to think that that was funny, and there is zero funny about that to me, and it just irritated me, and I had to DNF the book entirely. So I'm sure some people would be just fine, the way some people are fine about all books. There is no bad book. It's just a matter of finding the books that are right for us, and the other ones irritate us. Number 6, Katherine Parr, a book that was published after the author's death. So for that, I will also pick up a more recent one that I read, The Silmarillion, J.R.R. Tolkien. This was published by his family after his death. I don't know, from my understandings of reading it, it appears that he had never really officially intended it to necessarily be published, at least the way it was. They were just kind of back notes that he would use to kind of create his Middle Earth. But I'm super, super glad it was. There's basically 5 kind of short stories, if you will, about the creation of the world, about some of the backstories of the character. This leads into the prologue that we get to see in the Fellowship of the Ring opening movie. Get some backstories on characters and the stories behind them, as well as the Silmarillions, which are kind of the stones. So good book, a little dense, and I don't suggest it as a first read of J.R.R. Tolkien for sure, but I'm certainly glad that was published. And then there's a bonus, Henry VIII, a chunky book that you hated, and I think hate is a really strong word, and I just could not wrap my brain around that. There's 2 or 3 big books that I've DNF'd, 2 or 3 big books that I didn't necessarily like. I even have a running joke about Tessa de Uberbill, because that one really irritated me. I kind of had to force myself to finish it, and then I wanted to throw it against the wall kind of thing, because I was not redeemed by the ending of it. So maybe that's my answer, but hate would be too strong a word. I love the writing of that. There were many things that I really appreciated about it. I can certainly understand why so many people would love that book. So we'll just go with that as my answer and what I talked about. I will tag some other people to do this. I want to tag Jillian at Novel Opinions. I want to tag Floss at the Grape Jelly Library. And I want to tag my friend Susan at Road Reads. I think that none of you have done this yet, so put it in your queue if you like to do tags, and if not, that's fine. Do something else. I'll keep watching you anyway. Thank you so much for watching. Y'all have a wonderful, blessed day. Happy reading, y'all.